Today is 8M2 Lesson 7, Sequencing Translations. We are going to build on 8M2, things that we've already learned, how to translate objects on the coordinate plane, and we are going to do multiple translations on objects and see what that looks like. We're going to go to our sketch pad, and we're also going to use our new tool Geogebra to look at what happens when we do multiple translations of objects. Also, you're going to look and you're going to learn how to return an object to its original location. If you've translated it along a vector, how to return it to its original location. All right. That's a lot, so let's get going. Okay, so we've learned how to translate objects along various vectors, and so we can do that really quick here, and let's just remind ourselves how we would, let's write this down. We're going to do multiple translations, so we're going to translate triangle ABC along vector QR, then along vector XY. So this is sequencing translations, 1, then 2. And the way that we do that, and the way that we've been doing that, is this. We translate each point. And we'll look at a tool that makes this a little bit easier. This is one way to do it. We're going to translate each point along. And this isn't perfect because I don't have I'm just kind of dragging and dropping as best I can, getting pretty close. But we'll take our points that have been translated, and we're going to make our new object. Let's make this one orange. Orangish. Let's label our new points. We've translated B, that becomes B prime. We've translated C, that becomes C prime. We've translated A, that becomes A prime. Let's now get rid of these little objects here. Yeah, get rid of all the little objects. And oops, not that one. Oops. There we go. And now we have our new object. And so now let's go ahead and let's label this thing. We were going to do this one in, let's do it in this color here. And it's pretty close. We have about the same object. It's been translated to the right by this distance QR. And now we're going to do the same thing here with this. So we have a translated object. We've translated it along QR. Now what we're going to do is we're going to translate our new object, our new triangle, along XY and also label it. So let's take that guy, and we're going to translate it one more time. And so we notice we can just translate and translate and translate along various vectors, and we can just keep doing it multiple times. Let's make our new object. We're going to make these new points in, well, what color should we do? Let's do green, just to keep it visually separate. And let's go in and let's now erase our vectors so we're not terribly confused. Gotta get rid of every little point here because these things get in the way. And we end up with our new triangle here. That probably should go away too. Okay, so our new triangle is now been translated, and we're going to make it also green. So let's do that. boom, boom. We didn't label our points, so let's do that. How can we label these points if we've already used A prime, B prime, and C prime? Well, we can go ahead and we can call this A double prime, and this one C double prime, and this one B double prime. Double prime, right? And so you can see how if we were to create another vector like this, we could then translate this triangle a third time along a new vector if we called that one EF. But we won't do that. But you can see how we can just keep chaining these together and together and together. And let's just give ourselves a little, a little happy cat for that. We have learned how to do. We have actually done the lesson. We have sequenced translations. And it's all building on the fact that you know how to translate any object by just moving the vertices, the vertex points of a given object, and then redrawing the shape. Now, what I want to do with you now is just show you, we're going to go to Geogebra, and it's going to shortcut all of this process we have of doing one point at a time. So notice if we have this shape. So now we're in Geogebra. We have this quadrilateral, and we just want to translate it along this vector, EF. So we're going to translate A, B, C, D along vector EF, and we can just do that very simply using these cool tools, which allow us to just translate an object by a vector. So I say translate object by vector, and bam, we have it. And notice, it's basically shortcut us by moving every single point, A to A prime, and labeled it. So if at A to A prime, D becomes D prime, B becomes B prime, and C becomes C prime. And then we can then translate that along GH. So we can translate our new object. Watch how we do translate by vector. We can translate our new object along GH. And there we have it. And notice how D prime has become D double prime. A prime has become A double prime. B prime has become B double prime. And C prime has become C double prime. Okay. So we don't have to do all of the mechanics of redrawing every point and redrawing the shape. We're now building on top of what we know, and we're going to let this tool do some of the work. So similarly, we can very quickly, let's just get rid of this shape, and let's just translate another object along two vectors, and let's change the look of these vectors. Let's change this vector to be down to the left, and this one to be, or down to the right, and this one to be way down and to the left. So let's create a new object here. We'll create another polygon, and we'll just create it with 5 sides, and we'll make it kind of crazy shape. We'll make it look like that. And we're going to now translate it along this vector, EF. So let's translate by vector this object along this point. And notice, again, how this vector has basically translated, done it really quickly, translated A to A prime, B to B prime, C to C prime, I to I prime, or I to I prime, and D to D prime. Now notice on your homework, you can't maybe use this tool. Maybe you can use this tool to check your work, but you're going to have to do the work of translating each point and redrawing the object. Now, if we were to translate along this other vector, GH, we just break it down. We're doing 2 things rather than 1 thing. We do 1 step at a time, and we're going to translate this new object by this vector GH. So we've moved this guy, our A prime, our polygon prime, into our polygon double prime territory. And again, notice the the tool has moved A prime to A double prime, B to B double prime, C to C prime to C double prime. Same for D's and same for I's. Very powerful tool, GeoGebra. Now I want to ask you a different question. Let's start to use our deductive skills, our reasoning skills, and let's think about let's get rid of this object and let's make this a simpler object, because I want to ask you a question. So we're going to take this, I'm going to make this vector be kind of long, and we'll make it like this. So this vector is 5 to the right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to the right, and 1 down. That's the direction. The length of this vector is 5 down, 5 to the right, and 1 down, and its direction is kind of down to the right. Okay, so if I am going to take this triangle, we'll make it a right triangle, just for fun. If I take this right triangle and I want to translate it by EF, I want you to guess about where it's going to be. So I want you to pause the video and think about, where is this object going to be if I translate it by EF? Okay. Now I assume you've paused it, you've thought about it, and because this vector goes 5 to the right and down 1, this object should go 5 to the right and down 1 also. So let's see if that's what happens. And the answer is, of course, it goes down to the right, 5 to the right and down 1. A goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to the right and down 1. C goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to the right and down 1 to C prime, and B goes 5 to the right and down 1, just like the entire object. So we can see that, right? We can see that each point does that exact same thing. And it doesn't matter where this vector is, because vectors don't have a location, really. They just have a direction and a distance. Now, let me ask you what is considered the hard question. What is the hard question? Is how do I translate a translated object back to its original location? Where did it go? How do I translate a translated object back to its original location? Oh, because the color is white. I got to go find my object. How do I translate a translated object back to its original location? There we go. So now it's in blue. So now I can see this thing. Oh, I could have just gone and grabbed this guy here, and I could have made its color be pink. Oh, there it is. Gone and grabbed him. Okay, whatever. I'm just having fun at this point. And so how do I do that? Well, if I've translated this triangle to this triangle along this vector by moving it 5 to the right and down 1, I want you to think about, how do I translate it back? What vector would take this new object and move it back to its original location? I'll move this down a little bit, right? If I take this and I translate it 5 to the right and 1 down, stop, pause, and think about it. Okay. So for those of you that said you need to take the vector and just reverse it, you are the winners. Because if I take this object here, whoops. If I take that object there and the translated object, and I move it along a vector that has reversed the direction of the vector, I'm going to take this one and I'm going to translate it back along this one. I can see that it moved it right back on top of this original vector, or original triangle. Right. So if I were to choose something that would be, down and to the right, if I were to go just straight to the left, it would be here. If I were to go to the left and down one, it would be there. But my translated object, if I move it, or if I have a vector that is exactly the opposite direction, but the same length as the original vector, I return it right on top of that original object. So that's how I translate a translated object back to its original location, as I use a vector in the opposite direction. Okay, so now I'm going to ask you the final question for homework help. This was hopefully a rather not a tricky lesson for you. Hopefully this makes sense. There, that guy was the hidden guy. Okay, so here's my question for you. If you've been paying attention, I'm going to take this object and I'm going to make it look like this. I'm going to make it really all over the place. And I want to translate this object, and now I'm going to create a vector that goes down 4 and over 3. And I'm going to translate this object, this crazy polygon, along this vector. Let's make this vector go like this so it's not exactly on top of that other one. So this vector is going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 to the right and 3 down. OP. So I've translated this object along this vector and I end up with this new object. So my question to you is this. What vector will translate my new polygon back to its original location? That's my question for you. What vector? Let's fix this guy. Yeah, we'll do that. What vector will translate this new polygon that's been translated from this one along this vector back to its original location? If you've been paying attention, you should be able to tell me that answer. Okay, pause and give it a go. Okay. Okay, so now we're back. And now the answer, let's look. Let's create a new vector that is our guess. And I'm just going to create this one, which is kind of wrong. And we're going to translate, and we're going to see what the answer is by translating this guy along this vector. And that's not the right answer. If we've gone down and to the right, down 3 and to the right 7, what are we going to need to do? Our new vector is going, our reversed vector is going to have to be exactly the opposite direction and the same length. So if we go from O to P, our vector that returns our translated object back to its original is going to have to go exactly in the opposite direction in the same length. Okay. So hopefully this was a straightforward lesson. You know, if you know how to translate once, you know how to translate twice, you know how to translate 100 times. If you know how to translate something from here to here, you know how to translate it back now from here to here using a vector that is at the same length and in the reverse direction. And I will see you tomorrow when we do lesson 8. Hopefully this was helpful. I think you guys got it. I think you're on track. We're halfway through this unit, and stay with it, and you're learning a ton. See you next time.